I will get the top of you. Boom, 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 moving up and down again.
So how about that dong?
If I was the actor in this movie and Danny Boyle went around saying it's not a real penis, it's prosthetic, I'd be so mad.
So true.
Well, anyway, now that we've gotten the joke out of the way, hi, welcome to Bomb Squad Matinee. I am your host for this fine evening, Joseph Henry Brannick, and today I have with me
Tanner Richard Kraft. I'm not quite 28 years old yet, unfortunately.
I'm the guy who Ray Fiennes had to pay a lot of money to because I currently own the patent on calling a public place the Bone Zone.
That's why you call it that. Okay.
Hi, I am Zombie Dr. Manhattan.
and if you couldn't tell by the references to Danny Boyle, zombies, and a bunch of other shit, we're talking about one of the most anticipated horror movies in recent memory. 28 years later, the third installment in the, I guess if you want to be technical, the fourth installment of the 28 Days Later franchise. But we don't count the one with Sandra Bullock.
Am
Yeah,
I
gotta get
missing something.
No, there's a Sandra Bullock movie that was named 28 Days, and it came out before 28 Days Later.
Oh, now I
Yo,
got
Sandra
it.
Bullock, Viggo Mortensen, Steve Buscemi, Alan Tudyk, Dominic West.
You know what is canon, though? Sunshine.
This takes place in the Sunshine universe.
I'd believe it. But speaking of 28 years later and the movies that followed, they are quote-unquote infected movies, but let's be real, they are zombie movies because they act pretty much like zombie movies.
Don't say that around my dad. My dad is very pedantic about this, and I respect him for it.
All right, okay, and I respect that, but let's be real, this is kind of a zombie movie. And we've talked about zombie movies on the channel before. It's a genre that I happen to really love in the horror genre. And yet we've never had this question for an opening question for a zombie movie before. So we're going to rectify that. We're going to have our opening question be, what is your favorite zombie movie? I'm going to start with probably the biggest horror buff in the chat right now, Mr. Tim M. Sullivan. What is your favorite zombie movie?
So, I'll start by just getting this out of the way. My pick is not going to be any of the Evil Dead movies because the Deadites are not zombies. They're closer to being like possessed or demons, but not zombies.
I hard agree on this.
My actual answer is probably Return of the Living Dead, but we are going to be doing an episode on that later this year. So I'm going to save my thoughts for when we do that episode. But instead, I'm going to pick another movie that is tangentially related to Night of the Living Dead, which is Lucio Fulci's Zombie. This was, I believe, the first Fulci movie that I watched. It's a movie that I hold near and dear. It's very gritty and just fucking gnarly. Has one of the gnarliest fucking eye gouge scenes I've ever seen. So if you're a fan of eyeballs, maybe don't watch this movie. But it's a great horror classic. And yeah, if you like Fulci, if you like zombies, you're gonna like Zombie, also known as Zombie Flesh Eaters or Zombie 2, because it was released in Italy as a sequel to Dawn of the Dead, which was called Zombie. Good movie. Back to you, Joe.
Good movie, only watched it once because, I cannot stand that goddamn eye scene. Arguably, Fulci's most accessible and well-known movie. That I don't know if that's up for debate or not, but I know a lot of people.
We got The Beyond. That's another pretty well-known one.
I like The Beyond more than The Shining because of the plot.
Thank you, Tanner.
All
Very
right.
cool.
Well, with that take out of the way, Tanner, we're gonna go with you next. What's your favorite zombie movie?
So a lot of the time when we do what's your favorite X genre or what's your favorite theme movie, I'm often even when I'm the one that comes up with the damn question, I'm often struggling, scrambling, trying to figure out an answer until it finally lands on me. And even then I'm still struggling, scrambling to get an answer, staring at IMDb lists or Rotten Tomatoes lists to try and find an answer, which, by the way, Rotten Tomatoes has a top 100 zombie movies list. Number 96, zombie strippers.
In what direction?
We'll have to watch to find out.
Are we talking like, 96 fresh zombie strippers or like 3%?
God, I hope 97%. I want to see some decrepit tits. Number 89, we got Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. Speaking of decrepit tits.
Where's that piece of shit, The Dead Don't Die, land on that list?
I don't... I just crossed it. 83.
Not
It needs
Jarmusch's best work.
It, like, not only does it need to be lower on that list, it doesn't need to even be on the list. Fuck that movie.
There's a couple of movies here I want to shout out. Number 78, Death Becomes Her. I don't know if that really is a zombie movie, but it's a good movie.
Yeah, it's like a reanimation movie.
Yeah.
Someone brought back to life with a spell, kinda.
Then is Frankenstein a zombie movie? Discuss among yourselves.
Kinda.
At home. 76, Maggie. That's a fun movie. I enjoy that movie. I want to shout out the fact that at number 63, Army of Thieves is on here, which is a spin-off of the Army of the Dead movie. And the only reason I am bringing that up is because I've seen Army of Thieves and there are no zombies in that movie.
No, there are. They're just in dream sequences, and then they talk about them.
I don't remember the movie very well.
Hey guys, I haven't
don't-
seen Pineapple Express.
I saw it. I swear to God, I actually saw it.
What?
Anyway, let's watch 17 again. That's some inside baseball, guys. I apologize.
Number 33, Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island.
Are
Perhaps
we,
the best of the Scooby-Doo movies.
Tanner?
I'm building up to something.
Okay. Okay.
Number 24, a movie we've done an episode on. Had the director on for Anna and the Apocalypse.
Needs to be higher.
Number 22, a couple spots up from that, Warm Bodies, a movie I remember quite fondly.
Where Nicholas Hoult plays a heartthrob, if I'm remembering right. Was he the
He
heartthrob
does.
in that?
It's like, I believe it was Holt's breakthrough, at least here in America.
A movie that I intentionally put into trivia to entice Tanner to come out to trivia night at the Alamo Draft House, and yet the motherfucker didn't show up.
Number 15, The Autopsy of Jane Doe. I'm only bringing that up because I didn't know that's what that movie was about. So that's kind of interesting. Number 10, we have Zombieland. Perhaps the best comedy involving zombies, or it would be if it wasn't for the fact that number 6 exists, Shaun of the Dead.
There we go.
But I'm bringing up all these classic zombie movies, all of these amazing classic zombie movies to say that these movies are all great in their own right. Maybe not Zombie Strippers, but all these movies are great in their own right. But they all owe their existence to a certain 1968 movie directed by George Romero. That movie is my favorite zombie movie, and that movie is Night of the Living Dead. I have it here on Criterion. It's one of my favorite, most prized possessions. This was one of the first Criterions I ever bought. It has this cool little fold-out thing that I just keep in there. Has like a bunch of like stuff about the movie, and then on the other side we got this kind of cool.
Love the design.
I first saw Night of the Living Dead in English class my junior year of high school. My biggest takeaway from that movie is I was sitting next to a black kid. I swear to God, this is important. I was sitting next to a black kid, and we watched it over the course of 2 class periods. Him and I were both liking the movie. And then at the very end, right as the credits rolled, because famously, the main character of that movie played brilliantly by the incredibly talented Dwayne Jones, who deserved a better career than he got after this. Dies at the end of the movie because he's presumably mistaken for one of the zombies. Right after he gets shot and the credits pull up, the black kid next to me says, "Damn, almost went through the whole movie." Specifically, and that's when I discovered, I didn't know about it at the time, but when I asked him to explain that joke, he told me, well, black people will always die first in the horror movies, and now they almost survived one but then didn't. Anyway, Night of the Living Dead's like a perfect fucking movie. It's tight as a bike. It's so short, it's only 90 minutes long, it's very tightly paced, the writing is perfect. You kind of get a good sense of these characters as soon as you meet them. It does the thing that a lot of great zombie movies do, which is that you take a group of survivors with differing goals, throw them at each other as they try to survive. The makeup work, what little there is, I think is really well done. The way that Romero shoots the zombies is really effective. And even, I think it's a very common thing with zombie movies that the message of the movie is that the real evil was humanity. That's the true monster. And I think this movie does that incredibly well, of the fact that this group of people just can't work together worth a damn. And because of that, they doom each other. And then at the end, the one guy that actually manages to fucking survive gets shot by his fellow man. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. If you want to watch it, it's really fucking easy because they forgot to copyright the picture at the time. And at that time, if you forgot to put this is copyrighted in your movie, it would just immediately enter the public domain. So there's like a bazillion copies on YouTube. Matter of fact, Tim, go ahead and put the entirety of Night of the Living Dead in here now.
No.
Okay. Worth shot.
As much as I could. I think that would be a little distracting for the views.
Yeah, especially imagine just listening to this on a podcast while driving, and then all of a sudden you're just like, "They're coming to get you, Barbara."
Not again!
By the way, iconic line, beautiful.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are a lot of fantastic zombie movies. I know a lot of people prefer the sequel to this movie, Dawn of the Dead. And while Dawn of the Dead is great and is arguably just as influential in its own right, for me, this was the first zombie movie. Arguably, you can argue maybe there were movies before this, but this was the first true zombie movie. Arguably invented zombies as a concept, and we've had zombie movies for 57 years now, and I still think they have yet to top this one. Back to you, Joe.
I will interject real quick because, like, I think there were kind of zombie movies prior to that, but they were a different kind of zombie, like more of a tribal kind of thing. Like, this invented zombies as we know them now.
That is accurate. I would say that's a fair reading explanation.
Yeah, I would agree. Tanner, I think it was that Rotten Tomatoes list that they pulled that you were reading off of, right?
Yeah, I was just reading random movies off of it.
I'm reading it now. A lot of these answers are kind of bullshit. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, I was skipping a lot of the sure answers.
Evil Dead, Reanimator, those don't belong on there in my opinion.
Reanimator doesn't belong.
All the Reanimators are on here. I don't think those count.
Reanimator does not count. You want to know what also doesn't count? Not on the list, but it was in the Google search. 30 Days of Night. In fact, that is far fucking off from zombies. Those are vampires. A huge difference, guys.
Especially if you're a millennial. They used to fight when we were younger.
Yeah.
You know,
They used to fight and look creepy as shit. But yeah. All good answers from you guys. My time to shine.
Hang on,
Austin hasn't gone.
Oh, Austin hasn't gone. I apologize, my good sir.
I need you to lock in, Joe.
Hey, Tanner, listen. It's been a long day. Austin, buddy, I apologize to you, good sir. Please, tell me, what is your favorite zombie movie? I would love to hear it.
I mean, I wish I came packing heat, you know? Like, there's this temptation, right? When you go into these questions, kind of like flex your film degree and show up with like some batshit pick no one's ever heard of, right? The sort of perfect pick that combines both quality and relative obscurity is probably Shinichiro Uede's One Cut of the Dead from
hell
2017,
yeah.
Right?
Fun fact,
Shinichiro-
number 1 on that Rotten Tomatoes list.
Right.
I debated that pick, but it's like 30 minutes of that is actually a zombie movie, and the rest of it is just a movie about making a movie.
Legitimately have never heard of this movie before in my life, but it looks awesome. I'm going to try and watch it ASAP.
It rules.
It's not what you'd expect. Shinichiro Ueda. Fuck, the Japanese are gonna get my ass. Believe it or not, like Stalker, I've never actually been able to make it all the way through that movie in one sitting. I get interrupted every time. Maybe
90
it's amazing.
minutes. That's crazy.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Since I can't go with that, my fallback picks are Shaun of the Dead and the 2007 film Wreck, R-E-C, like for record.
Number 9 on this list.
Yeah. I might put Reanimator higher than Wreck if it was a fucking zombie movie, but it's not. It's not a zombie film. Shit like Night of the Living Dead, Dead Alive, those are zombie films. You know what I mean? I guess it really comes down to, with those two, whether I want something that's just scary or if I want like a great movie that happens to have zombies. Like Wreck, 2007, one of those indisputable highlights of the found footage genre. One of the better found footage movies out anywhere. Famous in its day for having the final shot of the film plastered all over the trailer spots. Wreck is the Spanish language film that's kind of like the New Day Brothers 9/11 documentary they made us watch in school, but like with zombies. A reporter follows some firefighters into an apartment where they're doing a wellness check on like some old lady, and it turns out the old lady hasn't gotten her shots that Christmas, and like chaos ensues. It's so fucking good. Meanwhile, Shaun of the Dead is one of those movies I assume like everybody has seen or knows about already. It's kind of like Hot Fuzz, Black Dynamite. It's one of those rare cases where it succeeds in being a parody of the genre, but it also stands as like a top-tier entry among straightforward films from that genre. Like, in setting out to make fun of zombie films, Edgar Wright made one of the best zombie films of my lifetime, at least. Shout out to Dead Alive, though, coming in at a very close third place. 33 years later, still the goriest film ever made. I cannot believe this fucking guy made Lord of the Rings. But yeah, those are my shout-outs. Back to you, Joe. Can't wait to hear what you got.
Awesome sauce. All great picks. My time to shine. Normally, if this were the question, if this were a question that had been asked presently in either our Army of the Dead podcast, maybe not for the movie that I would have selected for this question, my answer would be Anna and the Apocalypse. I love that movie and hold that movie like near and dear to my heart. But we did an entire episode on that. You should go check that out.
The director.
We did have the director. You are correct. I could also say Dawn of the Dead because I do really love that original Dawn of the Dead quite a bit. Heck, I even like the remake, Faults and All, written by my favorite writer and director, directed by a guy that has a vision. We'll just say that.
Directed by a guy.
I want to be nice to Zack Snyder. I can't be mean to him.
Boston excellence. That's a deep-cut inside joke. That is a deep-cut inside joke.
Boston excellence grew up in Green Bay. Anyway, I could pick that, but that's also not my pick. I also could pick one that Austin brought up, Dead Alive, which I have a fun story of how I originally watched Dead Alive. The Council Bluffs Public Library had a copy of it, and for like a weeknight, we had to stay over at my grandma's because I think my mom had to go on a business trip and my dad was also off on a business trip as well. So we had to stay with my grandma. I woke up really early one morning, and this is where I watched a lot of my movies, was in the basement of my grandma's house. I woke up early that morning, and I watched Dead Alive in that basement, and it was fucking awesome! Holy fucking shit. Like, that was easily, like, the best place to watch a movie like that. Just in the basement of your grandma's house. Your grandma has no idea what you're watching. It feels like you're getting away with something. But that's not my pick. My pick's actually going to be a much schlockier answer. And no, it's not Poultrygeist Night of the Chicken Dead, even though that is a very
Damn it.
schlocky movie. No, my pick, it's Planet Terror. My pick is Planet Terror.
Oh.
The Robert Rodriguez first bill in the Grindhouse double feature. I can talk all day and night about how it was kind of an influence on a very specific movie that I made, but I don't like that movie, so I just don't talk about it. But I still like the movie Planet Terror. It's gratuitous violence, ridiculous gore, some of the best fuck yeah moments in all of cinema. Rose McGowan in that movie is not only fucking great, but maybe the hottest woman alive. Like, holy fucking shit. Like, there's a reason why she is the, like, front woman on all the goddamn posters. It is balls to the wall action, an absolute fun time from beginning to end. I got to see the double bill of Planet Terror and Death Proof. I got to see, like, the whole Grindhouse experience at not the one that I work at, but at the Omaha Alamo Drafthouse back when Once Upon a Time in Hollywood came out, because they released all of Quentin Tarantino's movies at the Alamo Drafthouse. And it was maybe the most fun cinematic experience ever, because everyone cheered at the right moments. Everyone was having a great time. They played all the fake trailers. They even played the hobo with the shotgun trailer. But the best part about watching Planet Terror with a crowd in 2019 was everyone in the entire theater, including the staff, collectively booed the name Harvey Weinstein.
Let's go.
There we are.
But you want to know another movie I like? I like 28 Days Later, and I like 28 Years Later, the latest sequel to the 28 Days Later franchise.
There are many kinds of death. And some are better than others.
We're gonna get into it now. Who am I gonna start with? You know what? I'll start with someone who I think liked it a little bit more than I did. Tanner, why don't we start with you?
This is one of the best movies of the year, if you ask me. This is fucking incredible. First things first. Obviously, anyone that knows me and has been listening to this podcast for a while understands that the shit that really appealed to me was all the family stuff and everything. And obviously, I'm going to get into that. But the first thing I want to shout out is sort of making fun of myself. When they came out and announced that they were filming this on iPhone, I kind of made fun of them because I thought it was a stupid gimmick when you upload custom firmware co-developed by Apple into the iPhone that gives you more control over the camera, put it in an expensive camera body, use expensive ass lenses adapting the iPhone's camera into more proper cinematic looking things. I thought it was just a stupid marketing gimmick that they were just saying because Apple gave them money or whatever, and I thought there wasn't going to be anything cool there. Instead, this movie has some of the most innovative, revolutionary camera stuff I've seen in a movie since, like, a Wachowski's movie. Like, since Speed Racer or The Matrix. Granted, it's very similar. There are shots in this movie where a zombie gets shot, and they do this, like, crazy bullet time video game, like, thing where it's like a choppier version of the bullet time sequence, but also smoother. And the only reason they're able to do that is because they put a bazillion iPhones into this rig. Handheld rig, by the way. A couple of grips who had carried along, but they were handheld rigs, which probably helps explain the bounciness of these shots because they were handheld. This is some of the coolest, most innovative camera work I've seen in a movie. The angles in which Boyle places the camera, the heights in which he places the camera were clearly achieved because the iPhone is an incredibly small and lightweight camera. Now, I do believe that there is an ARRI camera that's maybe only 5 pounds heavier than the iPhone that probably could have achieved a lot of this stuff, maybe. But who knows? I'm willing to bet those 5 pounds made a big difference. At the bare minimum, it definitely made a difference in those. I'm talking they had 20 iPhones on this rig. In those rigs, it definitely made a difference because 5 times 20, that's 100 more pounds.
Yeah.
That definitely makes a difference in portability and transportability of that rig. And also, I'm willing to bet 20 iPhones a lot fucking cheaper than 20 ARRI cameras. And that matters in a movie like this that is trying to keep its budget relatively low. The camera work in this movie is stellar. It's incredible. It is genuinely innovative. And that's the big thing I want to shout out. That's the big one. They're doing some crazy cool stuff with the camera. And I'm sorry I didn't trust Boyle when he decided that this movie was going to be shot on an iPhone. The only thing camera-wise I wish I can bring up is that, you know, it'd be kind of cool if the movie had less pixels, so it would look more like the first movie. But at the same time, it looks great. So, like, who cares? Now, on to the other stuff I really like. Performances all around are incredible. Aaron Taylor-Johnson is on an absolute hot streak right now with this, Nosferatu, and I know he had a movie before that that I liked. Not Craven. That didn't happen.
Damn it! I was hoping you would make that joke.
Not Craven. Craven is a movie I saw in theaters, and 10 minutes after watching it, I know for a fact I forgot all of it. Aaron Taylor-Johnson, fan-fucking-tastic in this. Truly some of the best work he's done in his career. Jodie Comer, also amazing in this. I've long been a fan of her. You can listen back to the bonus podcast Austin and I recorded on Free Guy, in which I say perhaps the funniest thing I have ever said on any of these podcasts, which is when I said, and I don't know what I was thinking, but I meant it at the time, when I said Free Guy would be a Best Picture nominee if A24 distributed it. I don't know what kind of shit I was on.
Let him cook.
I don't know what shit I was on. I was on some shit.
You were on that Sean Levy shit.
I guess I was. Jodie Comer is fantastic. Ray Fiennes shows up for the last like half hour and helps takes us home for this movie's emotional core and climax. But more than anything, I have to shout out my boy Alfie Williams, who makes his acting debut in this, as far as I can tell, as the lead. He is the lead in this movie, okay? And he is doing some crazy good work. Like, he is brilliant in this movie. He has to carry the movie on his shoulders as a 12-year-old, trying to navigate a zombie world and navigate coming of age. And that's the thing about this movie. It's kind of not a horror movie. Obviously it is. But it's mostly a horror movie in the first half, and then the second half of the movie, honestly, it kind of becomes more of a coming of age movie with some slight horror elements, and that is to the movie's benefit. Much like how 28 Days Later wasn't really a zombie movie in the traditional sense, all zombie movies eventually become, you know, a movie about how the true monster is humanity. But I don't think no zombie movie more than 28 Days Later exemplifies that. And the way that this becomes just, this coming of age drama. Going into 28 Years Later, I was not expecting this to be one of the movies this year to make me sob like a baby. But that beautiful, touching sequence where, Jodie Comer's character passes away on her own terms somewhat, and Alfie, learns to deal with her death, and then he climbs to the top of the bone tower, and...
We got one!
Sorry.
Dang!
It's been a long time.
Climbs to the top of the bone tower to place the skull there after Ray Fiennes says, find a place that's perfect. It's really, really touching and moving. I thought that was really wonderful. And that's, Danny Boyle is a great genre director, but also he obviously operates so well in that emotional space. Train Spotting is an amazing movie. I love Slumdog Millionaire. I really liked Yesterday. I'm the one person in America that liked Yesterday. And this just, again, it plays to his strengths so incredibly well. And then people are a little divisive about that part of the movie, about how, it kind of goes from being a horror movie to a not so horror movie. Obviously, though, I don't think that's the thing that gets people really divisive.
Yeah.
The last 5 minutes of this movie is where people really get divisive.
Not even the last 5 minutes, like the last 1 minute.
The last minute. Goes, as we all know, as we knew going into this, because around the time Sinners was coming out, Jack O'Connell, who plays the villain in Sinners, said, "I can't wait for you guys to see me in 28 years later. I play," and I quote, "a real gas cunt in that one." The entire movie has passed by, and I still haven't seen O'Connell. And I'm sitting here thinking, shit, did he get cut? Because that'd be crazy. And then all of a sudden, some Jimmy Savile looking motherfucker pops up, and I go, oh my God, that's Jack O'Connell. And he's like, "Aye, mate, you need some help? Warriors, attack!" And then all of a sudden, a death metal cover of the Teletubbies theme starts playing, and these guys, all dressed up as Jimmy Savile, start doing Power Ranger action moves on these zombies, absolutely kicking their ass. And then we get a close-up of Jimmy Savile, of Jack O'Connell's Jimmy character, being like, "Yeah, we're the Jimmies." And then it zooms in on his necklace, revealing it's an upside-down cross, making you realize that he's the character we saw at the beginning of the movie, which, I'll be honest, the whole movie I just thought was Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yeah.
Which I think the movie wanted that intentionally. Aaron Taylor Johnson's character is named Jamie, which is very similar to Jimmy. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people aren't on board with it. They think it's tonal whiplash. They don't think it works. And honestly, and I don't even really blame the American audience for this. The American audience might not get the entirety of what's going on there. Trigger warning for sexual assault and child abuse. Jimmy Savile was a British entertainer. He was a British television entertainer. He did a variety of shows working with adults a lot, but he also had a very popular kids show. Jimmy Savile was well respected. All of these shows was with the BBC, which is the British Broadcasting Corporation, which is, state funded television. It's sort of British PBS. I know that's not exactly a one-to-one analogous thing, but it's kind of British PBS. All these shows very popular. I don't think he was knighted, but I think there were talks, people wanted him to be knighted. Anyway, he died in 2011. And then shortly after his death, it came out that Jimmy Savile was a serial rapist. Raped plenty of adults, but mostly raped children, with the youngest victim, I believe, being 8. And a lot of these kids were kids he met doing the children's show. Doing the children's show. But he was a beloved entertainer of all ages, especially children. Try and make this more clear to the American audience. Imagine if at the end of this movie, a bunch of people wearing sweater vests showed up and said, "We're the Bills." Or alternatively, "We're the Cosbys," to make my point clearer. And I think it's really interesting there, because obviously I think what they're doing there, obviously it's a cult, some crazy cult thing. There's some like real Peter Pan Neverland shit with these boys that never grew up. Because with the Teletubbies theme, the Power Rangers moves, and the dress like Jimmy Savile, they're clearly developmentally regressed on some level, that they're latched completely onto children's entertainment. I'd expect the sequel to maybe have some commentary on nostalgia and stuff like that. The whole point is that this whole ending's sequel bait. And it seems like if you're on board with that, you're on board with the movie as a whole. And if you're not on board with that, you might not be on board with the movie at all. I am 100% on board with that. That ridiculous fucking nonsense that also clearly, if you just dig a little, has some commentary going on and some real potential interesting commentary going on. That's my shit. I love that shit. I love the Power Rangers also. I thought it was really cool how there was a Power Rangers action figure, which is funny because I'm not exactly sure, but the red Power Ranger action figure he has is from a Power Ranger show that came out after 2003. So I don't know how you would have that action figure, considering I don't know how that toys would have made it into the British market, considering they're under quarantine. Not the point. I am a loser nerd for knowing that. But then at the end when they're doing Power Ranger kicks and shit, I'm like, oh, fuck yeah, this is awesome. The ending really works for me, and I'm excited to see what they do in the future. I understand if you're put off by it, but again, it works for me. Clearly Boyle and Garland have something cooking, and I'm curious to see what that is in the future. But overall, though, this is a brilliantly shot, innovative camera work movie with brilliant performances, a story that made me cry, and there are so many interesting stuff about the future too, like what that ending's gonna go on to. Are they gonna like kind of Children of Men with the infected baby that's not infected? And it's not like, oh, they're genetically immune, not infected, because 28 weeks later is at least somewhat canon in this world. And the immune carriers of the rage virus still had the eye thing going on, while the baby, they make a show to show that the baby has normal eyes and is not infected with the rage virus at all. So maybe there's some interesting thing going on there. The fact that the infected can get pregnant at all is interesting. There's a lot of interesting stuff here. I'm curious to see where it goes. But the most important thing about this movie is that it proves that that the United Kingdom is a useless country, because we're shown that culture outside of the United Kingdom does not fucking change at all. The rest of the world is entirely normal and the exact same as our world, except the United Kingdom just isn't a thing anymore, proving once and for all the British Empire is dead. Back to you, Joe.
All good points. All good points. Austin, because I almost skipped over you in the last question, I'm going to go to you next.
I personally think that this is a really inspired, worthwhile idea for spinning up a new trilogy. 28 Days Later was about normal people kind of like suddenly adjusting to the new reality. 28 Weeks Later was about the limits of trying to like return to normal after an event like that. And 28 Years Later is about a boy who grew up without experiencing the world the way it used to be before the zombies came. And the whole thing is very deliberately structured. Maybe as like a callback to young Lisa Brennan Jobs with her Walkman, the screenplay for 28 Years Later plays out kind of like the Joni Mitchell song Both Sides Now, except none of the verses are about clouds, love, or life. They're all about death, suffering, and more death. If Kubrick had made this, it would be called Dr. Strange Guy and How I Learned to Clean Skulls and Remember Death. His father teaches him that death is something you bring to invaders. His mom teaches him death is something kind of horrible that you can't really control. And then General Practitioner Gustav H. teaches him that death is not the end as long as people remember to love. Then the Jimmy Savile ninjas show up, and the movie goes from a 10 out of 10 to a rock-solid 11 out of 10 over the course of 3 very heavy metal minutes. Danny Boyle, he's 68 now. He was 67 when they shot this. This film has convinced me he has gone the way of folks like Steven Spielberg or Wes Anderson. He has whittled down his style over the years into this perfect kind of creative template. At this point, the quality of his pictures mostly hinges on how good the screenplay is that he's working with. This is Danny Boyle in peak form. This is the Danny Boyle that they reached out to when they needed somebody to direct the 2012 Olympics. To be fully transparent, I am a Danny Boyle dick rider. Through and through. Any man who makes both Trainspotting movies, Sunshine, Steve Jobs, and 28 Days Later has been touched by fucking God. I was grinning from ear to ear at the start of this film when we get like the 1-2 punch of Promised Land and Lowly by the Young Fathers, bringing that same sort of like propulsive, euphoric energy that Lust for Life brought the beginning of Trainspotting. After the kind of grim shit show that was 28 Weeks Later, it was immediately comforting to get this unmistakable reminder that I am watching a Danny Boyle film again. The next time my eyebrows raised was the stock footage of the British like knights fighting off invaders. Based on some of the interviews I've seen, I think that's supposed to represent the way our young protagonist views the zombies, having been taught a warped version of history in school and living in this kind of agrarian environment. Once they cross over into zombie territory, the stylistic decisions from there get even more insane. To echo a lot of what Tanner said, you got the kill cam, where a zombie's like shot to death and the camera rapidly zooms around them bullet time style, thanks to this large metal sheet with 20 iPhones. One of my personal favorites was the Panasonic EVA-1 infrared footage, used to introduce the alpha zombie, like ripping off the head off a deer like he's Sub-Zero with a big dick. You got the exaggerated stars in the chase along the causeway, the interesting like radial effect near the end with the bone temple in a couple of shots, and he has a tendency to use certain exaggerated camera angles that just really worked for me. Like the alpha being very tiny against these huge landscapes a lot of the time. Lots of overhead shots, really canted angles. I personally also was not a fan of their announcement to shoot on iPhones. I figured if you're gonna go through the trouble of strapping expensive glass to this thing, you might as well shoot with the Alexa and get the extra 3 stops of dynamic range. But they really made the most out of filming on like a lightweight, very portable camera. This is very dynamic, experimental. I fucking love all the choices that they made. There were also aspects of the story that kind of blew me away. This is an exceptionally good screenplay. Aaron Taylor Johnson has this messy but like really realistic relationship with his son. The gradual buildup of Rafe Fiennes is this like madman doing unspeakable shit in the woods, only for him to be like this kind shaman who's built a bonehenge out of like respect for the dead. That whole bit about the kid placing his mother's skull on top of the temple made me cry too. Which was an interesting emotional place to visit after watching a big dick zombie rip people's heads off over and over again. Honest to God, this was like the best zombie movie I think I've seen since Train to Busan. With both Danny Boyle and Alex Garland, you never know if you're gonna get them in like peak form or if you're gonna get something less quality like Yesterday or Men. But when they hit, and the 4 times they've worked together, they have made 3 absolute classics, and in my opinion, this is one of them. Here is to hoping that Nia DaCosta does this new trilogy justice next year. It's still technically franchise filmmaking, but there's clearly much more room to experiment than she had making the Marvels. I'm giving this like a big fat 8.5 out of 10. It's probably like my third favorite zombie movie of all time, behind Shaun of the Dead and Wreck. That's my piece. Back to you, Joe.
Awesome. They are coming right out the gate hot. Tim, you think you can keep this heat going?
Sure. So I will admit that 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later are movies that I slept on for a long time. And my reasoning is very stupid. It was that whole, it's fast zombies, so it's bad bullshit, which I now recognize as dumb. But I remember distinctly in 2020, pandemic starts, and towards the beginning of the pandemic, I was just like, I'm gonna watch a bunch of quarantine-themed movies like Contagion and Wreck and Dogtooth. I think the reason why I did these things is the same reason that I feel compelled to watch Green Room every year of a Trump presidency. There's just something broken in my brain, and I need to do exposure therapy or something. I don't know. But one of the movies I watched over the course of 2020 pretty early on was 28 Days Later, because I kept seeing people talking about 28 Days Later, and that was, while it was still on Hulu, before it, was locked away in the Weinstein vault for a while. So I got to watch it on Hulu while I was still up there, and watched it, and immediately was just like, okay, I get it now. I recognize that I was wrong, and I will do better. And I just watched 28 Weeks Later the other week, and I liked it fine, but it just felt too grimdark and just a little bit lacking, and I think it's just, this might be a franchise where you need the dream team of Danny Boyle and Alex Garland as director and writer. Because 28 years later, good picture. Yeah, you guys have already brought a lot of great points up, so I'm gonna be echoing a lot of what you guys have already said, but I mean, number one, the iPhone cinematography, I too was kind of like, that just seems silly, that you're doing all this marketing on it being shot on an iPhone, but then getting the big fancy expensive rigs and getting this technology that nobody else has access to. But then I watched the actual movie instead of just the trailers, and I was like, okay, I get it. I get why they did this. I understand this choice now. It's not an anybody can do this movie. Not anybody can make 28 years later. They're doing very specific things with that camera and like those rigs, those fucking curved rigs where they were doing the bullet time thing. That was a very fun little shtick they kind of did a bunch throughout the movie, because it was very flashy camera work, which I think you don't quite see a lot anymore. Like, it felt more reflective of, the previous films in the previous installments in the franchise than I was prepared for. I was kind of expecting more glossy, kind of elevated kind of cinematography, but this was flashy in a way that I wasn't quite expecting. There's a lot of really beautiful cinematography and a lot of like very feels like an iPhone cinematography, and that's a good thing. It gives it a very distinct look. A lot of just surprisingly beautiful moments, and like sometimes beautiful in a horrifying way, like specifically towards the middle when they're like in that watery place and you see all the stars and they're running away from Big Dick Zombie, and they have this like classical piece playing that I recognized from It's Such a Beautiful Day, which made it extra fucking scary, because then I had to think about mortality because I had to think of It's Such a Beautiful Day. Yeah, a lot of beautiful stuff in this. The Bone Tower was sort of this surprise thing, because you see that in the trailers and you think it's just going to be this imposing, horrifying thing, and then it just turns out to be just this really beautiful kind of exploration of death. The whole Memento Mori, him going up to the top of the tower to put his mom's skull on the top, and just that sequence of her kind of accepting her death, and you see like the flames going around the tower. Yeah, gorgeous, just incredible. That's all very good. One thing that I thought was interesting about this movie is that like about 15 or so years ago, we sort of started seeing the boom of like post-apocalypse zombie media, a little after 28 Weeks Later, and The Walking Dead just kind of exacerbated that whole thing. I don't think it was necessarily the start, but it definitely like kicked it off, and it kind of started this whole thing of like fucking like, you know, Gen Xers, boomers, just going into this like doom prepper mode thing and kind of going into like zombie apocalypse media as this sort of power fantasy. Like all the people who are like 40 or 50-year-old like big time Trumpers now, who are going on Dean Withers streams and getting fucking owned, they're pissed because they thought that little woke kid would be dead, and they would be, you know, surviving on their skills of zombie prepping. And it just kind of, you know, it's this whole thing of like, you know, zombie media being this sort of like escape for toxic masculine bullshit. And this movie feels like it's a commentary on that. It feels like it's like showing that kind of person and showing the lead, you know, trying to escape that. Because like his dad is definitely that kind of person, like just a very abusive, toxic person. When he gets called out, he fucking does the 2 punches on the wall. And we kind of see our lead, you know, embracing, you know, more of a beautiful kind of outlook on life and trying to escape from that toxicity, which I think is an interesting thing to do with your zombie movie. Yeah, overall, like this a lot. Was very impressed with it. Hope Nia DaCosta sends it with the next 3 movies. We've seen she was good with the Candyman movie, so hope she continues to bring some good horror stuff. Movie good. Back to you, Joe.
Hell yeah. You bring up those toxic masculinity idiots who think they can survive a zombie apocalypse. I want to quote Max Brooks, the writer of the zombie apocalypse survival guide and World War Z. And I'm gonna quote him here. It's like, okay, well then let me ask you this: when you get cut and it goes gangrenous, what are you gonna do? Do you know medicine? Do you know how to survive? Do you know how to gather food when there's like no fresh food? How are you gonna get fresh water? How are you gonna Krav Maga your way out of this? I don't think you will, asshole. Yeah. Max Brooks, son of Mel Brooks, very smart individual, very good writer. Yeah, the writer of World War Z is Mel Brooks' kid.
Whoa.
Fun fact there for you.
Cool.
And it's very interesting you bring up the toxic masculinity and with the parental angle with Aaron Taylor Johnson, Tim, because I feel like that's an area that they wanted to also explore in 28 Weeks Later with Robert Carlyle. But they don't really delve too deep into it, unfortunately.
No.
28 Weeks Later doesn't hold up as well on a rewatch, but when you watch it, knee deep into everyone getting the vaccine, it becoming publicly available, and then this fucking pandemic is finally like starting to die down and not be as scary anymore. No, that movie is fucking terrifying to watch in the year 2021, because you're just like, fuck, this is gonna happen to us. We're next. Because it's like, they're readjusting to society, and then an outbreak happens again. And then they just start shooting everyone. We're fucking next, aren't we?
Yeah, I just watched that with my fiance last week, and her exact words when it ended were, "Yeah, I fucking hated that." She was not a fan of how fucking bleak that movie was.
I like the bleakness, but it doesn't really hold up on a revisit. 28 years later, I did like it. I'm probably a little less hot on it than you guys are, surprisingly, but I did really like it. I think maybe more rewatches of it will happen, and I think seeing just kind of what all of this is building up to is definitely going to help that as well. I did like the movie. I didn't find it disappointing. I think it's in my top 5 of the year. If you want to talk disappointing, we can talk about Megan 2.0. That is probably the most disappointing movie
Mithrigan.
of the year. Yeah.
Mithrigan Matugan.
Is it contagious?
Yeah.
Totally.
Oh.
Highly.
But we're not here to talk about Megan 2.0. I don't even want to talk about that movie. It kind of makes me sad. But 28 years later, it is a really good movie. I'm pretty much going to be echoing what everyone else, for the most part, has said about the movie. So I'll try not to just repeat everything that's been said already and just kind of talk about other things that I don't think have been mentioned yet. I'll say this: I was pleasantly surprised to be subverted in how I was going to view Ralph Fiennes, because the entire time, and I had seen the other 28 Days Later movies, and I'm just like, when are you going to betray my trust? When are you going to make me hate you? And then I'm just like, oh, Aaron Taylor Johnson's just Uncle Owen. He's just hyping up how Obi-Wan Kenobi's this crazy old man, and it's like, oh no, he's kind of a cool guy. Yeah, that was the big comparison I had in my head the whole time. I'm just like, Ralph Fiennes is Obi-Wan Kenobi, huh? But what did I really like about that? I like that little subversion happened. I really like the lore building. I think there's few things that I get really hyped up about lore being established. I think I can add the 28 Days Later movies to this now, because just kind of seeing how this world has evolved over however long it's been since 28 Weeks Later has been fascinating. Just kind of how these like zombies are now just kind of their own ecosystem, and there's different fucking types of them now. Most notably the alphas, the big dick zombies. That they are very much a different breed of zombie than we had seen in any of these movies.
Yeah.
There's like those ones that look like something out of a Japanese horror movie that just like fucking crawl around and shit. Those things unnerved me.
To be fair, most of those zombies were pretty average. It was just the one guy who was packing heat.
Yeah. Yeah. Just kind of seeing how they've evolved is fascinating. Same with like just how like the survivors have evolved, and how there's just like subsections of like villages that are just out there surviving. There's that fucking quarantine boat that shows up at some point in the movie, and they all become characters because they crash. Just kind of that whole thing. It's interesting to see just how far this world has come, and just kind of everything that's happened since those original movies. I'm curious to see how that's going to continue to be explored going forward. And I think that's probably going to really help me like this movie a lot more on subsequent rewatches, is just kind of seeing how, like, what they're building up to. We don't have J.J. Abrams writing this, so I'm pretty confident that we'll get a satisfying results. I'm looking at Rise of Skywalker. I want to shit on that movie again. So hopefully those future movies to come will not only be awesome, but help this movie out. But as it stands, I liked it. I had fun with it. I will definitely watch it again. But I think right now on the totem pole, it's probably at my least favorite in the 28 Days franchise. And I still really like Weeks, even if it doesn't really hold up. I'm one of those people that will defend Weeks. But that's it for my general thoughts on that. We've been talking long enough, and I think we've pretty much got everything we wanted to out of the way. We're gonna skip general discussion this week. We're gonna move on now to final thoughts. Tanner, we'll start with you. What are your final thoughts on 28 years later?
28 Years Later is a brilliantly shot, brilliantly performed, brilliantly written, brilliantly directed film. It's one of my favorite movies of the year. It's top 3 for sure. I think I like Sinners more, and I definitely like EFIS more. This is now a podcast about EFIS. So,
Baseball.
baseball. I'm pushing my EFIS agenda. No. It's a beautiful movie. It's a wonderful family drama hidden in a horror movie, and I'm really excited to see what Nia DaCosta does with the next movie. And yeah, that's it. Back to you, Joe.
All right, Austin, final thoughts.
Earlier this year, I was telling folks that like Thunderbolts was the first time in ages that an MCU post-credit scene had me excited for the direction of a franchise. Well, Danny Boyle just showed up and absolutely blew that shit out of the water. I literally cannot fucking wait to see what they're gonna do with the Jimmy Savile Sentai Warriors. 28 years later is strange, it's brutal, it's really emotionally poignant. If they keep the bar of quality this high, Romero's original Living Dead movies might finally have some competition.
All right, Tim, final thoughts.
It's probably for the best that we're doing the matinee show now, because I can't fucking imagine trying to edit a movie night around those dicks. 28 Years Later is it's a very good movie. It works on a horror level. It works on an emotional level. Works as a drama. Beautiful movie. The trailer for it, had me curious with that boots needle drop, which they worked into the movie. That was just one of the most insane things I've seen in a movie this year, is that as a needle drop. It's a very good movie. Definitely check it out. If you've seen the previous installments, or honestly, you could just watch it on its own. There's not a whole lot of lore you really need to be aware of going in. I would say watch 28 Days Later. It's a very good movie, but you could easily just go into this and be perfectly fine. Excellent film. Back to you, Joe.
All right, my final thoughts. So every movie post Free Guy, Jodie Comer has just continuously got like more disheveled and dirty, and yet somehow still looks like the hottest woman alive. That woman is gonna become a fucking like husk, like just nothing but
Stealing my joke.
Yeah, yes, I am stealing your joke. She is gonna be like she's gonna be like that one like really like skinny ass zombie that's like malnourished and just basically like dead as a doornail, a complete husk, and yet somehow still be fucking gorgeous.
By the way, remember when that zombie in the trailer was a big fucking deal and he was in the movie for 5 seconds?
Yeah.
Well, remember when we all thought it was...
We thought it was Cillian Murphy.
It
was not.
He's not even in this movie. No.
Apparently he's in the next one. He was seen filming.
But yeah, final thoughts. Movie good. I'll definitely see it again. Good stuff all around. I will watch anything by Danny Boyle. That man has me for life. Hopefully the next ones continue to get better. But you want to know who else I hope continues to get better?
Yo, mama.
Tanner Richard Kraft, but also you, the person watching / listening to this episode of Bomb Squad Matinee. Thank you so very much for tuning in. Since you're here, then you've made it this far, why don't you go on down, comment below. What did you think of 28 Years Later? Dicks, they're everywhere, aren't they? Comment below, let us know. While you're down there, hit that like button so we know how much you like us. Hit that subscribe button so you know how much we love us. And hit the bell icon so you can get updates on our latest uploads for new videos and all that fun jazz for you hip, keen, young, groovy cats. Check out our socials. We got Facebook. I think we still have Twitter. We have Insta. We have Twitch. We don't really use Twitch. We should get back to Twitch.
We have Blue Sky.
We do have Blue Sky. Go follow us all.
We have a Threads account. I don't know.
Allegedly,
it's being posted to it.
Regardless,
I think I got the handle.
Regardless, go follow us on those social media platforms. Also, go check out our Patreon, where it's like we got some reward tiers for you. The $5 tier, that's the one that gets you a shout out, right, Tanner? Or is it the $10 tier?
No, $5 tier gets you commentary tracks.
Okay. The $5 tier gets you the commentary tracks. Tanner and I recorded one on Mr. 3000. That was a fun time.
I forgot to release. I'm so sorry. I'm fixing that as soon as possible.
You damn dirty bitch. You get on that right fucking now.
That was supposed to be our May 1 too. So we're a little behind. We need to record some stuff. We should record a bunch of these back to back.
Yeah.
We should do one. That,
we should do one on Snakes on a Plane.
Nope.
Yes. Fuck you. And the $10 tier, that not only gets you the commentary tracks, but that also gets you a shout out at the end of these videos. And if I remember correctly, it's still just the same one, which is Tanya Richard Craft, Tanner's mom.
Her middle name is not Richard.
I did it again! I did it again! Oh no! Oh no! Listen, the initials TC, all I think is Tanner Richard Craft. Because I just know because whenever I think TC.
Texting her this right now.
Oh, it's over.
It's all I have had my hosting privileges revoked. Tanya Craft, I apologize. You get the proper shout out there. We love Tanya Craft. She helps supports the show. You could be that You could be that person too, and then I can make your middle name Richard for no reason. In fact, you know what? Let's make that a stipulation just to save my ass. If you donate $10, not only do you get a shout out, but your middle name becomes Richard. So if Austin wanted to donate $10, we would call him Austin Richard Zwiebelman.
Sure.
Anywho, now that all the fun promotional stuff is out of the way, Tanner, what's our next episode?
Our next episode is going to be a double feature hosted by yours truly. It is going to be by far the oldest movies we have covered on this show yet. We are covering James Whale's classic films, Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein. The latter of which is one of my all-time favorite movies. I'm really excited for you guys to hear us talk about it, so make sure you tune in.
And the first title, Tanner Richard Craft came to. But we'll talk about that next week. I'm going to make fun of them for that all next week. Yep, exactly. Anywho, thank you again so very much for watching. Donate that $10 if you really want your middle name to be Richard.
Bomb Squad Productions.shop.
Yeah, we have merch. We have merch. Go buy the merch. You want to be the coolest kid on the block? We got shirts. Buy a shirt. You'll be the coolest kid ever. You totally won't get beat up at school at all. Thank you all so very much for watching this episode of Bomb Squad Matinee. We hope to see you again. Maybe not 28 years later. Hopefully 28 hours later. We'll save that. Just come back and rewatch our videos. Goodbye.
Wish I had that alpha dong.
I'm going to start with probably the biggest horror buff in the chat right now. Mr. Tim M. Sullivan, what is your favorite zombie movie?
This motherfucker needs to stop walking off when people start talking.
What an asshole.
Anyway.
Yeah, where did he go?
He's gotta get his hot pocket. Anyway, he's back.
He's back. Let's find out where he went. Where did you fucking go?
I needed to get something real quick. Sorry, I figured Tim would continue.
This
Please tell me Tim started answering the question, or did you guys...
I was just roasting the shit out of you.
He's gone. I can make fun of him.
Just slid my across the table and I said, sorry guys, I gotta see about a girl.